Our team has 3 specific deliverables. The first one I'll call a system map. And what we're trying to do with that system map is to demonstrate the connectivity and potential causal relationships between both internal systems, such as GXP systems, non-GXP systems, as well as systems that might be external to our to an organization, you know, weather data, for example, or something like that, and to connect those elements to a complaint system. So the reason we took a complaint system as something tangible to think about, you know, when you have a customer complaint or you have some type of recall, you have information coming in from the field. You typically will do some type of investigation. A very significant complaint may go into many, many different systems internally. We probably don't think a lot about perhaps external information to the company. But the idea is, if you take a complaint and work backwards, why not think about going the reverse direction? So what are all the systems that have some type of bearing or influence that might contribute toward that customer complaint? So we're kind of taking a reverse look to find out like root cause, but then through that effort, all of those systems that we can identify that might have some type of causal relationship on a customer complaint, if we could connect those systems in some way and be able to detect signals before some issue happened, we could potentially, you know, prevent customer complaints, we could prevent recalls, et cetera. So our first deliverable is that system map between these various systems, showing that interconnectivity to them and ultimately to something such as a complaint system. The second deliverable is something we're calling a data model. And really that is looking at the various elements, data elements within each of those systems that we identified in the system map, and show how those data elements might connect across those systems. I do have a slide in a moment that I'll show that is just a high-level view of that, but before I go there, the third output is a set of definitions of AI-relevant terms, again, to try to help standardize our understanding and enable us to use common language. So if you can go to the next slide, I just want to point out I don't want to get into detail on this slide, but when I talked about one of our deliverables being a system map demonstrating interconnectivity, the blue rectangles on this particular slide show samples of a GXP system that might be connected. So you see the complaint system, the CAPA system, an execution system, LIMS, ERP, et cetera. And then the last one, or the E on the catastrophic event, you know, think about things that happen around the world, right? You know, the weather events in Japan and how that potentially impacted products that came out of there, or any place you have a flooding or earthquakes, et cetera. And so those kind of external events that we might not always think about are an excellent, I guess, addition to any type of system map. So the gray boxes in between the blue boxes, that illustrates the data element that serves to connect those various systems. And you don't need more than one shared data element across 2 systems to be able to join that data. So again, if you can connect ERP, external events, LIMS, et cetera, can we identify potential problems before they occur? And that is certainly our hope. I think I'll leave it at that. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much, Charlene. So Mac, I'd like to bring you into the conversation. What are some of the expected deliverables from the CLS team?
Okay, thanks, Michelle. What I've got here is our visual. We're and all of the conversation leading up to this is part of what we're using as inputs as we look into the continuous learning systems and algorithms. So what we found is we've got about 30+ folks in our team, and it's a nice mix of about half pharmaceutical industry experts and the other half med device related. And as Mohammed had mentioned earlier, we're really putting into practice 2 work streams. If you look at the architecture around this and the input that FDA is looking for is, how do we regulate continuous learning systems and algorithms, right? So one work stream is that decision assistance system, where there's an algorithm and human input to help train it, right? And then you ultimately move towards an autonomous system where it's been trained and it's validated, and some of the previous examples is functioning on its own. So it seems like every day there's a new example. Yesterday there was a chat bot that's come out that gives terminal patients a robot to talk to when they have to deliver the news. And some patients actually found that more comfortable than dealing with the physician. But there's no end to the examples, and we're picking some of those examples. We got some here, and again, as Mohammed had said, we're going to look at how to validate those systems, and the others have talked about, you know, the structured, unstructured data. You have clean data. What are the rules around that data? How do you put ranges around it? You can't just open it wide open because you'd be boiling the ocean. So you have to be quite specific in terms of how you're going to validate these various applications. And as you move into sort of the use and commercialization of that and turn this system loose, how do you build confidence to the users? How are they going to accept it? How do you know that your data and monitoring systems are continually going to make sure that this is an appropriate and accurate tool? So we've got a whole flight of deliverables down there that we're working on. Next slide. So quickly, not wildly different. We've got the 2 teams, and I think all of those in the industry can appreciate the uniqueness of pharma versus medical device and the various applications and the therapies that we deliver. So we're going to take various steps to go about that. The pharma team is, we've got this, what I call top 10 list from Berkman, from FDA, to run their examples through to find fit and help them define solutions and outcomes. Again, being mindful of the rules of engagement and training these systems. And as Charlene had said, this GXP framework makes a lot of sense, right? Whether it's GMP, GLP, GDP, GCP, sorry for the acronym overload there, but we can adapt this. It's all about the G and the P, good practice, and then you fill in the blank. So that's really what the pharma and device team are working towards. Next slide. And we have the benefit on the medical device team of Pat Baird and Rohit Nayak are quite involved in other initiatives around AI and machine learning, such as AdvaMed and AMI and international standards. So like the quality team, we want to understand the landscape, have some definitions, and really stay true to our scope and keep this in a box, because we can't take on all of AI. We want to be meaningful and focused in going after continuous learning systems and how we might regulate those in a meaningful manner. And again, this GMP scheme seems to fit quite well with this group. And if we're to be clever and creative, we might call it GMLP, good machine learning practices. So we're going to run these through some hypotheses and again, develop solutions and recommendations as our deliverables.